So, Alan, it's been a year since we were in this room setting up our NetApp HCI.
Yeah, it's the year's gone really quick.
Yeah,
Very
so I
quickly.
think we should give a bit of a roundup for some of our partner base as to what's happened within that last year.
A lot's happened. Yeah.
So I think the first thing we need to talk about is probably the NetApp deployment engine.
Yep.
And how it's advanced.
Yeah, when we started playing with it this time last year, or it's actually just more than a year.
Yeah.
It was version 1.0.
Yeah.
So we now have version 1.4. It's got a lot of fixes and enhancements and support for some of the new hardware.
Right.
One of the main things for me is the reduction in the number of cables that you need to deploy the compute nodes.
Right. Okay.
We've come down from 4 cables down to 2. That's just on the compute nodes, which makes it a lot easier. You don't have to spend so much money on buying the cables and so on. And
but can you still do the other?
Can you still do that? That is a wonderful question. Yes, you can. Yes,
I think
for the die-hard people who love things cabled up correctly.
I mean, we spend a lot of time cabling it. I don't want to have to go and rip all of that out. So that
when you say we, you mean me. No, we did. We spent a lot of time cabling a lot up. So yes, you can. You can still use the full cable version. Absolutely.
I mean, from what I've seen, the screenshots actually help you make that decision through a little graphic.
Yeah, they do. They do. I run through the 1.4 update 4 or 5 weeks ago, and the screen that does come up and the options you get, very, very self-explanatory, very easy to follow. I didn't choose the 2 cable option because our deployment is fully cabled.
Yeah.
But it's pretty easy and self-explanatory, easy to follow.
Good. So, other than the cables in the GUI, was there anything else that stood out that hit you as you were deploying it that you think you might need to draw attention to? Or
yeah, there's obviously support for the new platforms.
Right.
The H400 series and the H600 series.
Okay.
The 400s are replacing the 300, 500 and 700 series. Yeah, the storage and compute nodes.
The Gen 1 hardware.
Absolutely. It's just the update of the internal architecture.
Right.
The H600s, quite excited about those.
And what exactly do they do, if you want to tell people?
They do some wonderful stuff. So they allow you to deploy a compute node that will allow you to use end-user computing, so VDI essentially. They've got 2 NVIDIA Tesla M10 cards inside them. So they're good for that end-user computing requirement.
Yeah, because Windows 10 does have a bit of a demand for GPU.
It does, indeed. And again, I could go into the speeds and feeds, but all that's readily available on the site.
Yeah.
So some good enhancements.
So that came along with the last iteration of the Element OS, which
yes,
is
it did 11
storage.
Yeah,
OS.
11.x. So some really good advancements within the NDE4. I'm trying to think of some other stuff.
So can you still add the blades, the standalone storage blades?
So do you remember when we did that back with NDE version 1, and it was quite involved,
right?
Adding those nodes. No, it's so much easier. So using NDE 1.4, you can do the whole expansion. Of your the compute side of it, obviously including the storage side, but the compute side is what we're talking about. Yes, you can do that very, very easily. All the requirements that you need to add an ESXi host into your cluster, it does all of that for you.
Right.
It sets up all the networking.
So it standardizes it and follows your best practices.
It's actually really neat. It's one of the things I tested 4 or 5 weeks ago. Deploying an extra compute node back into our cluster, and it was really easy. You literally set the relevant bits up, point it to your cluster, and I let it go. I went and had a coffee and a biscuit, and it was done. It was very impressive.
So it's good to take that day 0 look and feel that you maybe have with it, and then to roll it out into day 1 or day whatever, whenever you finally get around to deploying more
hardware.
Day
0 is great, but when an infrastructure has been deployed at a customer's environment, and 6, 8, 12 months later, when you want to expand, you want to upgrade, you want that to you want to have the same experience as your day 0 experience. It's quick, it's easy, and you don't need a massive amount of time to do it. As long as you have the relevant prerequisites met, it's easy peasy. as we'd say.
So we've talked a bit about the storage and the improvements there. Has there been any changes on the compute side of things?
Yeah, actually, there has. So within the compute side of it, obviously, the older version supported ESX version 6.
Yeah.
Then we went on to get support for ESX version 6.5.
Yeah.
The compute nodes now support ESXi 6.7.
Okay.
But is a post-deployment upgrade.
Right.
So you probably roll out 6.5 and then upgrade from there post-deployment.
But the good news is it supports 6.7 now on the hardware.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
which is what people are crying out for.
Exactly. And for the finer detail in terms of the updates of the various versions that it supports, then obviously check the relevant NetApp website.
Cool.
So the other thing I wanted to add as well is that ESXi, obviously, one of the main hypervisors that you encounter. I'm also hoping that Hyper-V will feature in future releases of the NDE,
right?
So that we can then have a little bit more of a spread in terms of hypervisors, and we've not just got that one vendor. As good as VMware is, Hyper-V is also very good.
Something like Zen Server as well should make an appearance.
Yeah. Well, I can't see why we can't extend the support within the compute nodes to include other hypervisors. It would make sense.
Bring your own hypervisor.
Bring your own hypervisor. BYOH. I like it. Okay. You should coin that phrase. Yeah.
So, is there anything else, Al, that we should know about?
Yeah. Funny you should ask. Actually, there's one other thing I just wanted to mention before we wrap up. Is the chassis now has an awareness via the relevant OS as to what storage node is where.
Right. Yeah.
So if it needs to keep parity information through Helix, it won't keep that within the same chassis. So if you lose a chassis with some storage nodes in them, it's not then going to affect the rest of it or your data that's held on the.
That sounds like quite a small thing, but quite a huge impact.
No, but for me that was a big thing. Little things please me. So it was a big thing. So it brings that chassis resiliency, so that should you lose a chassis within your cluster, then you're not going to lose data. Your data is protected. Small little tweak, I guess, but a big thing for customers and their environment. Protect that data. So
when you get it up and running, do you notice any difference from what you maybe saw a year ago to what we've got today?
The biggest difference for me, if I reflect back on this time last year, it's just easier. It was reasonably easy back then, but it's even easier now to do the whole deployment, to do the expansion. One of the things you and I have tested is adding storage nodes, adding compute nodes into our existing environment, and that's a lot slicker now to do.
The other thing that caught my eye is it seems more polished. Even when you're trying to do day-to-day management, deploying extra storage to the ESX hosts and so on and so forth, it just seems a smoother operation and an easier sort of thing to go through.
Absolutely. The other thing, just to add in as well, is that cross-platform replication, the big piece of the data fabric that we did some work on this time last year. It's now bi-directional, whereas when we first started, it was only one way.
It had to start on the SolidFire.
Absolutely. But now it's bi-directional, which again, big part of the data fabric, the NetApp data fabric story and strategy.
Yeah.
Big part of that. It's exciting times.
So that's all within 1 year. Where do you think it's going to go within the next?
If I had a crystal ball, I'd like to think that they're going to have more improvements within the NDE engine.
Yeah.
I think they're going to bring out other platforms, other storage nodes, compute nodes, obviously. Yeah. Can they improve on the deployment process? It's pretty slick already. I'd be keen to see what they do come up with. But yeah, it's going to improve month on month, year on year.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rory. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.